Hey everybody. Yeah, I've got about 11 minutes to go, maybe 10, 21, who knows. But I thought I'd come on here and kind of discuss something that I tried to discuss the other day. Actually yesterday. But basically I wanted to discuss the report and the reality of the fact that Impact Wrestling, who has been doing a phenomenal job lately, has really kind of picked itself back up thanks to Anthem Sports and people like Don Callis, P.D. Williams, Scott D'Amore, certain people behind the scenes that are, finally bringing Impact Wrestling back to what it once was, back to its prominence, if you will. Back to being that alternative that fans were always hoping it could potentially be. Now, it has basically taken baby steps, if you will, to do this. One of the baby steps is that instead of being in areas like, instead of booking venues that are a lot bigger than they need and always staying in one location where pretty much the audience is not, where the audience does not mostly consist of wrestling fans, and that being Universal Studios. Like I said, that being Universal Studios. And instead is going out and booking venues like the Melrose Ballroom, St. Clair College, the Rave in Toronto, and even upcoming Sam's Town Casino in Sam's Town Casino in Las Vegas. Places like that. And even booking the Asylum for next year, at the beginning of next year after the homecoming pay-per-view. Which is all great and everything. It's terrific that they're doing this. And I think a lot of people have praised them for that. And, as a matter of fact, I asked Alex, aka Delexman, on his YouTube channel, doing a super chat or a Q&A or something like that, and I asked him what his thoughts are on the fact that they were booking smaller venues, whether it was a good idea or not, and he said it was, because one of the things you want to do is you want to rebuild your brand, but at the same time you want to rebuild your fans' trust in your brand, so that when you fully get that trust back on your side, then you can consider probably attempting to book bigger venues, because word will get out of, hey, so-and-so is in the company and this is what this company does and you should check it out. So the more trust they earn, the more the word gets out that people should check them out in the long run, which is pretty much true. Now, I did talk about the fact that even though there's a lot of positives, there's still some flaws. Now, Bound for Glory was a good pay-per-view, don't get me wrong. It wasn't as good as Slammiversary, but still, it was a pretty decent pay-per-view. And even though it was a pretty decent pay-per-view, and like I said, it wasn't on par with Slammiversary, people still enjoyed it. The only problem that several fans will point out is the production. Now, I even mentioned this in a video, and I asked whether or not the Melrose Ballroom that they were at kind of caused those production issues to happen. I wouldn't think they would, but apparently they did. Now, you might say, well, Major League Wrestling, MLW, books themselves there on a constant basis and they have no issues. It's because MLW has an idea of what to put, as to where to put the cameras at when they need to be. So my thought process is they didn't get in contact with whoever they needed to get in contact with, maybe somebody from MLW, to be like, hey, you know, where do we put the cameras to make sure we get, you know, the full experience of certain shots and movements and stuff that occur in the ring. So my thought is, like I said in the video, I think there may have been a miscommunication, and hopefully they fixed that in their post Battle for Glory Impact tapings that they did the previous 2 nights. So hopefully that production issue was fixed. But like I said, you know, booking a venue like that will cause you to have some flaws, especially because of the size of it. Now, that's nothing against Melrose Ballroom. It's obviously a great place to go and have an event of any kind. Fine, you know, it's in a part of New York that is very well known, but doesn't really get to see many sporting events unless they're very, you know, enclosed, or very kind of like underground-like, if you will. And no offense when I say that. So, yeah, so you take that as a flaw that hopefully it's been fixed. And then you take a look at what happened with Austin Aries, and you're not sure whether or not this is real or this is legit. Because if it's real, you wonder, you know, why didn't Impact Wrestling say anything like Don Tony said last week or 2 weeks ago, you know, or last week I should say, last Monday. He said basically when he was doing a co-hosting job of his podcast along with Wrestling Soup's The Mish, you know, he mentioned why didn't Impact Wrestling say anything. So it makes you wonder if what Austin Aries did is a shoot, or is a legit shoot, a work shoot. You know, because if it's a work shoot, then more power to them and make it feel as believable as it can be, because you don't have Aries around. You're not mentioning him on TV, so it makes it look like, hey, he has nothing to do with the company anymore, he's gone. So when you do bring him back with like whatever they plan to do with him, whether he brings in an invading stable to take over, or he plays a loose cannon angle, who knows, then that'll really surprise a lot of folks, because they won't see it coming. Now, if it's legit, then the one flaw I think a lot of people will say is Impact Wrestling management, mostly Anthem Sports, should have came out and said something across social media about how unprofessional Austin Aries was in what he did. So we don't know. I mean, that's one thing that's kind of up in the air. If it's a work shoot and it's being done in a way where it's really blurring those lines, more power to them. That's a great positive. But if it's a legit shoot and they're not going to say anything and they're just going to let it, you know, slide under the door or sweep it under the rug, if you will, then that doesn't look so good, because you're allowing one of your, well, at the time, stars to expose the business when you still want to try to keep some believability in it. So I guess we'll find out in the future, you know, whether or not it's true or it isn't. I mean, you got people like Tessa Blanchard, Brian Cage, Sami Callihan that have their own personal thoughts on it, and Callahan, let's just say, using very colorful language, basically doesn't feel cool, doesn't care for what Austin Aries did. So, you know, and he kind of explicitly, in his own short answer, kind of explicitly stated that. Now, with that said, though, there is one thing that got people talking, though. What got people talking was about Impact Wrestling, more besides than just Battle for Glory, is what's scheduled to happen this Wednesday. You see, this Wednesday, POPtv plans to move Impact Wrestling from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. to 10 p.m. midnight. In other words, move it out of its primetime slot. And not a lot of people are fans of this because they pretty much feel it might hurt Impact Wrestling, because a lot of folks, even wrestling fans, hardcore die-hard wrestling fans, are getting ready to go hit the hay, take a snooze, if you will, for several hours before they have to get up and work. Now, there's no doubt that POPtv probably knows this, and maybe what they're hoping for is those that don't have to work until later on in the day, or those that might have a short shift, or those that might have a Friday off. Maybe they're hoping for that kind of audience, and that might help them. Or maybe they're hoping that they get the kind of audience that is dedicated, that might even DVR the product and watch it later, which still counts as a view, and kind of give their own thoughts on it at a later date. Who knows? But when people hear that POPtv is going to do this, it kind of blends in. It kind of segues into another situation that Impact has right now. You see, Anthem Sports, and I don't know if it's Ed Norherm and anybody else in charge at Anthem Sports, but a lot of people at Anthem Sports, including Ed Norherm, I'm guessing, are not too pleased with the current television distributor, the current TV distributor in POPtv. They're not too thrilled with this. They're not too thrilled with the fact that they get lack of promotion, I'm guessing. But mostly, I don't think they're too thrilled with the fact that POPtv is moving them into a different time slot. And from what I understand, their contract with POPtv is going to be up very, very soon. Probably within the next couple of months, next year, we don't know. So now the question is, where does Impact go from here? Well, one of the main things people have said that Impact and Anthem Sports is really focusing on is the digital side of things for the company. Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. They are looking at those options. I mean, they're looking at that side of things when it comes to their product as being major positives, because with digital media, Twitch, YouTube, what have you, you could take Impact and watch Impact anywhere you want to go. And then you got like Twitter and Facebook, where you could discuss, things going on in Impact, stuff like that. And I got to get into my job in just a bit. So they're looking into that. And my thought process is, if they want to go that route and focus more on the digital side of things, I say let them do it. I say let them focus on the digital side of things, because obviously it's working with Twitch. It seems to be, because you can watch any of those shows that they do, those collaborated shows or whatever that they do, anytime you want, for free. As well as you look at YouTube, because they constantly put up clips of not just the Impact show, but of the pay-per-views. And then you get the GW Network, which is the Global Wrestling Network, which is $7.99 a month, and folks don't mind. And there are folks that don't mind paying for that, because they can get not just Impact, but more wrestling content from other promotions. So you have all these options for Impact, optional directions, I should say, for Impact to go in come after the contract is up. But even with that, there's still a part of them that wants to stay on television. But how do they do that? What are their options? Do they stay on POP and try to renegotiate a deal that works out in their favor? Do they go to Paramount, which used to be the former Spike channel, former home of Impact? Do they go there? Do they try over-the-air broadcasting. Maybe make a deal with Me TV or My Network TV, even though some of those are currently owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. You know, do they do any of that? It makes you wonder. You know, do they go with Velocity? You know, it makes you wonder who they would go with. Do they make a deal with El Rey Network if Lucha Underground doesn't return? All the possibilities are endless. But if they decide to go more towards streaming, then my suggestion is to make a deal, ink a deal with YouTube, because they've done this before where they went between two different television partners, that being Fox and then Spike, and they stayed on YouTube for a bit with Impact. They can go back and do that, and people wouldn't mind it. Or they can ink a deal with Netflix, or even Hulu, or even Amazon Prime, and have Impact broadcasted on there. Every week you get a new episode of Impact. And there you go. Again, the options are limitless, or unlimitless in my opinion. So yeah, POPtv. POPtv. So yeah, POPtv, just checking my time here. So yeah, POPtv is not in the best graces of Impact right now, especially with what's going on. But we'll have to wait and see what they do after the contract is up. Either they renegotiate for a better deal, they look elsewhere, or they stick with the streaming digital option as the future. But yeah, so far Impact Wrestling, it's doing better than it's ever been, and I look forward to seeing more of what they can do. And let's just hope, you know, whatever the future holds for the Impact Broadcasting show, the Impact Wrestling show period, that they have something in mind. So let me know what you guys think down below. I gotta get into work. Talk to you later.